About 3 weeks ago, I learned of a new framing technique that revolutionized how I design my soundproof buildings from scratch. This also made us change a set of plans that I had finished. The architect and I were about to send them to permits, and we had a meeting with the contractors. And it was in that meeting that the contractors made a bunch of points about sequencing problems of how hard it would be to build this, that we came up with this different framing technique that was applicable to this build. This video is going to walk you through exactly the decision-making process we went through with changing a set of plans that was ready to be sent off for permitting, and how I made the call along with the contractors to change the plans because it was going to be a better design overall. This is not always the easiest decision to make, but it was definitely the right decision. All right, let's dive in. All right, here is a page from the actual plan set, and what I want to show you guys is actually zooming in on this area here. So this 3D graphic is actually really helpful for understanding how this project was initially designed, and this is not the way that we're moving towards right now. What you can see here is we've got a CMU block wall, we've got our studio room right here, an independently framed ceiling built off the 2x4s here. It's hard to see, but there is actually indeed a 1-inch gap there. And then we've got our secondary ceiling, or aka the attic floor joists, on top of a sill plate here, on top of the CMU. And this would be a very typical way. And then our roof rafters join in with the attic floor joists to create your typical gable roof with what's known as hand framing. Then the contractor, because this is an unvented roof assembly, had put in 3 inches of closed cell spray foam, which is very typical in the Florida climate where we're building this. So he did something totally normal, and I looked at this roof design and thought, oh, this is not going to be fun for the contractor, but we can do it. They have to cut around every single roof rafter here and lay this 2 layers of OSB down and seal all that with acoustical sealant. You can see down here, it's not even perfect because the closed cell spray foam has to be continuous here. Therefore, our attic roof can't go all the way to where I'd like it to be, which is the top of the roof there. So overall, this was a design that was somewhat compromised from the beginning from a sound isolation standpoint, but it's what I thought had to be done structurally just to make this project work. Then fast forward to this design meeting where we're talking about this, and a bunch of different aspects of this build start to come up. Here is an overview of the HVAC plans as if the roof was cut off, and you can actually see here where that OSB flooring is right around here. You can see how it doesn't go all the way to the edge like I ideally would like it to. You can also see that we had to put all 4 baffle boxes on the roof, and we have our ERV and our dehumidifier, which is extremely necessary for the hot, wet, humid climate of Florida. So the builders were looking at this and they were thinking something that was an aspect that architects and designers often don't think about, which is how do we actually build the thing that the designers drew on paper? If you look at this, we have a fairly shallow roof pitch to match the roof pitch of the home. This is an accessory dwelling unit in the backyard. You can see just how little space there is once all the ducting and the baffle boxes are in place. This is an excellent view here to show you the roof pitch. And then even with the collar ties right here, you can see that we barely got the ducting through there and we barely got the baffle boxes in. When I was designing this, I knew this was a problem, hence why we had to go as thin, like pancake size baffle boxes. They're thin, but as you can see here, they're very wide, 4 feet 6 inches wide. And so the builders were looking at this and thinking, gosh, how are we going to build the roof and get those baffle boxes in there? And it became a sequencing problem that we were trying to decide live on the call. This led to a really interesting point, which is where I raised this idea of, hey, maybe we need to change the way that this eave structure and this roof structure is built on top of this portion of the building. And let me show you what that looks like. Now, this decision is currently being made. We're actually waiting on some feedback from local codes to see if we can get different insulation approved. But at the moment, what I did is I drew up this eave design to show to the rest of the team and to confirm that this is what we wanted to do. So the idea here is actually, instead of having your roof rafter sit on top of the CMU wall on a sill plate, you build another sill plate, which is just a 2x6 or 2x8 laid on its side, and the rafter joist will actually come down and sit on top of it. It requires an engineering approval, especially in hurricane territory where wind uplift and approvals by the city are not only for safety in general terms, but also for safety from hurricanes. So all of this is important. But we also had another thing, and I want to give credit to one of the contractor framers who was on the call, who said, well, why don't we do a monopoly framed roof as well? That'll keep it nice and airtight, which is another technique that I have decided to adopt in all of our builds when we're building from the ground up. And this is actually popularized, I believe, by Matt Reisinger with build.com, who is head of the Build Show. And we decided that this was a great idea. So essentially our roof sheathing and our stucco would go all the way up to the top here. Sorry, the stucco would end here. Roof sheathing, and I'm going to try to push 2 layers of 23/32 here just to continue that mass through the crucial point right here. And then that would meld with our roof sheathing on the roof and be taped and flashed right there with some glue and tape. And then you would actually put a ledger board here and do a separate eaves built off of that using some heavy duty screws going into the side there. And we all decided this was the best approach overall for this client's project. Now, for clarity purposes, I didn't draw the independently framed ceiling here. So you're just looking at the 2x10 attic joists and then the 2 layers of OSB. But notice something really important here. The 2 layers of OSB can now continue all the way to the edge. We have a complete mass system that's airtight all the way up around our soundproofing. Everything above the OSB is what I always like to say is bonus. It's not crucial to the performance of our sound isolation system. In fact, this roof up here is now just becoming a climate and building systems problem and less of an acoustics problem. However, by mixing the high performance home build style that we're doing with the monopoly framing, we're also getting those same benefits for our acoustic system as well from the sound isolation perspective. So this is a huge win. It means some rework in the plans for us. It's going to cost us time and essentially money, but it was worth it. And these are the things that I'm learning every day. And I think a lot of people think that sound isolation and soundproofing starts and ends with the Roger Weiss book or even my channel. And it could not be farther from the truth. When we're dealing with building soundproof rooms, we're dealing with construction, we're dealing with building science, and we're dealing with codes, and we're dealing with architects, and we're dealing with builders. You can't build a great room without a little bit of each of those people putting their brains together and creating a great project. And so I can't emphasize that enough. The wisdom I'm learning the longer I do this as a professional, the more I see that coming into play and creating really, really great systems and builds for our clients. There was a second catch that was related to thinking through this plan way more in depth, and that was as I was researching codes on the insulation needed for this room. What I learned is that because we have created this airtight assembly and a double layer ceiling here, typically in an attic you're getting some heat exchange or cooling, in this case mainly because it's Florida, from your conditioned room here and from your conditioned room here. The majority of the cooling is not happening because we have so much insulation here and a rigid, completely air sealed deck that we're just not getting that transfer of air into the attic. Therefore, the attic is its own isolated space. It's airtight as well. And it's going to have the heat of the Florida sun just heating it up all day long, which is going to push temperatures in this attic well above 95 degrees. And 95 degrees is actually the maximum temperature that the dehumidifier will work in and function properly. After that, your warranty is voided, and there's potential that this $1,000 unit could just die on you one day. So we don't want to have that happen. So what I realized, and the architect didn't catch this, and I didn't catch this until later, because just how complex this is from, again, way beyond just a soundproofing assembly. This is building science, climate, and thinking through highly complex systems. We realized that we needed to pull some air from the kitchen, which is going to be ventilated with another mini split. We're going to pull some of that air, 50 CFM, cubic feet per minute, and run it into the attic, and then we're going to pull a return back down into the kitchen. This is a simple fix. It's not that expensive, and it's easy for an HVAC technician to install. But it's crucial so that we get some circulation in that attic and get some conditioning so that we don't have an attic that is extremely hot during the heat of the Florida summers. All right, so a lot that went into this design here, and I hope you guys see that what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis here at SPYS Designs is never just soundproofing. Never, ever is it just soundproofing. It is building science through and through, acoustics. It keeps us on our toes every single day. So here's the thing, you're getting a little peek view into an unresolved issue. This is currently part of the design process for this client. And the reason I wanted to share this on camera with you guys is to give you a realistic idea of what type of decisions I'm having to make on a daily basis, like I said here at SPYS Designs. Now, if you are on this journey and you're trying to build a room, especially a ADU, which are becoming increasingly popular right now, where you have a accessory dwelling unit in your backyard that you want to not only be a soundproof studio, soundproof room for rehearsals or recording, but you also want to have a kitchen and a bathroom. Very common, do it all the time now. That's where these type of decisions become so crucial. And I will say we are becoming experts at the ADU market because there is just so much to think about. And the more we do these projects, the more we pick up on the nuances in every single part of the country, whether you're in Florida, whether you're in Colorado, or whether you're in Arkansas. We're doing projects in all those places right now, all ADUs, and they all come with completely different risks and codes and climate. And you have to take all that information and funnel it in to an excellent plan. So if you want that high level, high performance room that's going to work, that's going to last for a decade or more, or 2 decades or 100 years even, then that's what we want to work on. Because all of these decisions are what are going to make a room work, or as I said, fail, where your dehumidifier dies within the first year because you didn't think about it having a 95-degree max temperature. That's beyond sound isolation. That comes into climate, humidity control, vapor management, you name it. It's all in there. All right. My name is Wilson Harwood. I am the founder of SPYS Designs. And if you are on this journey, I highly recommend you check out our soundproofing site assessment. This is the single best way that you can figure out if where you're building is going to be a great project or a nightmare project. And honestly, starting there is the best thing you can do for your wallet and the likelihood of success with your build in the future. Just go to soundproofyourstudio.com/plan. That is soundproofyourstudio.com/plan, and you can take the survey right away. It'll ask you a bunch of questions. You'll get an assessment, a green light, a yellow light, or a red light, letting you know if your project is on the right track or the wrong track. All right, like I said before, my name is Wilson Harwood. I am the founder and chief designer at SPYS Designs and Soundproof Your Studio, and we design soundproof rooms all over North America.